What are you doing when those new followers follow you on Instagram? How are you handling that new followership?
That's a good question. So sometimes I'll do a voice message, and this is with anyone who follows me. If they hear me on a podcast or in a Clubhouse room, they hit me up. I like to give a little personalized message if I have the time.
When you send someone that custom audio message like you're talking about, or a video or something, a lot of people are just blown away. They've never even seen anything like that. So it's really big. This is another strategy I think is really valuable for people. When I'm hosting these really fantastic Clubhouse rooms, generally go for a couple hours or so, at some point or at multiple points, I'll say, hey, listen, everyone, if you want the show notes, DM me on Instagram, send me your email address. I'll add you to my list. It's really helping me to grow my email list quite tremendously. So I'm excited about that.
All right. Hey, everyone. So this is a little bit of a different episode where Mark and I are going to be talking about Clubhouse, LinkedIn, YouTube, all kinds of different marketing and strategies. And so I'll just do a quick intro. I'm Chris Bello, the host of the Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast, and I'm a real estate expert based out of Houston, Texas, soon to be Denver, Colorado. I'm actually in the process of moving. How about you, Mark? You want to go ahead and introduce yourself as well?
Yeah, Chris, thrilled to connect with you here. And I'm really excited about this different kind of formatting. It's a great way for us to both give great value to each other and each other's audiences.
Absolutely.
Without going into, like, it's so easy when you're doing these collaborations to go 2 or 3 hours for a video, but I love that we're able to fit it in really efficiently because listen, that's what I'm about. That is exactly what I do. I host the After Hours Entrepreneur. I run a digital media agency called Savant Media. Pretty easy to remember, Savant Media. And I do that. This is exactly what I do. I help people reach more people with less time. Don't spend all your time creating content. Outsource that, figure out ways and systems. So I'm excited to talk shop today.
I really love that. And just one quick tip right off the bat that I recently received. People say that I'm sometimes too giving of my time. I had a 30-minute intro call, for example, and a top lender in my space who's been at it for 20 years. She's like, I've been to her house. She's doing very well. She's very successful by all means. And she recommended to switch that to just a 15-minute call. So I'm glad that you pushed back on that, because originally I was like, hey, we could do 2-hour slot, record on my show for an hour, record on your show. And a lot of times I do that. But I love how you proposed, hey, why don't we just do a 30-minute thing? We can share it on both of our platforms. And now we can go do other content, get in Clubhouse rooms, and do a lot more activity during the day in the same amount of time. So great tip.
This is the challenge of being a business owner in 2021. You got to be everywhere. You got to be on YouTube. You got to be on LinkedIn, of course. Oh, but you can't forget about TikTok. But what about Instagram? What about like you're being pulled in all these directions? And there are definitely days, I don't know if you feel this way, Chris, where you in the day and you're like,
what did I
feel
do?
like exactly. What did I actually do? I've been busy. I've been busy, but what am I actually accomplishing? So that's really what I'm focused on now is how can I be thoughtful with my time so that I can create the most impact and I can build my business, brother. Cause that's why we're here. You know,
I love it. And I'm going to open up my notebook because I always love jotting notes down. I mean, like you said, we can teach each other a couple things, and just from connecting and having interviews, I'm sure you find this as well. I always learn so much, and I can ask selfish questions, like something I'm struggling with. And that's why there's a lot of value in Clubhouse. We can learn from each other, take notes down, and then have those breakthroughs while we're going about our day. So you've been on Clubhouse quite a bit, right? I've seen you moderating a lot of rooms on podcasting, specifically on YouTube. Do you want to dive in on that a little bit and get started? Because I mean, I saw your followers on Clubhouse are growing very quickly, because I kind of, you came on my radar like a month ago or so, and I looked again. I'm like, whoa, this guy has been consistent, growing the following, adding value. So we'd love to see what value you have to add to the audience in terms of Clubhouse.
Yeah. So again, let's just define what Clubhouse is, because a lot of people still don't know. It's that new social media apps. So Clubhouse, just for an FYI, and I've got a ton of YouTube content on Clubhouse, and how to exceed. But Clubhouse is an audio-only platform, and that's basically it, right? There's no texting. There's really very limited video elements. Like there's photos, like that's about it. You get a photo, you get a bio, and it's all audio. And you might say that sounds boring. I'm image related, but it is extremely powerful for making connections with other humans. And there's pros and cons to it. But what I love about Clubhouse, Chris, is it's really easy for me to spend time there, get valuable information, and build real relationships there. But it trickles over into these other platforms, because without any texting, without any DMing, without any messaging, you have to go to Instagram. You got to go to LinkedIn. You go to Twitter. And it's that interaction there that said to me, at least for the first quarter, the first half of 2021, I'm going all in, because not only is it building my business, but it's also building my influence on all these other platforms. I don't know if you've had a similar experience, and we can kind of get into some of the growth strategies there and how to really leverage Clubhouse, but it's extremely powerful when you do it right. Otherwise, it's just a complete time sink. You
I
know,
totally
you're
agree. Yeah. And I mean, it seems like entrepreneurs, obviously, we understand that time is our most valuable asset. It takes some time to understand that very concept, because we're like, well, I could get paid more per hour at this job. Why don't I just stay there and get a little raise? But then you start to learn to delegate, to outsource, to scale yourself up and buy yourself more time. And so just all these little cost cutting, or not cost cutting, but also time cutting strategies, whether in Clubhouse or LinkedIn or podcasting, all those things add up throughout the day to make us more effective. And Clubhouse has definitely been a great way to leverage. I mean, I'm connecting with you here today. We connected on Clubhouse. I sent you a DM. And then Ben Levitt as well. That was another guest I recently had on the show that probably would not have happened, or maybe it would have been a slower process if I had emailed him or his assistant and he got back to mine, right? So you're cutting to the chase. You're hearing who has value. And if something resonates, you can go directly to them. Hey, man, I'll DM you, check your DM. And now you're looking for my DM. You're not like, okay, I'm 1 out of 1,000 DMs. Who's going to get lost at the bottom of the stack, right? So
yeah.
I'm
Well, it's that,
finding the
again,
same thing.
it's that direct human to human contact, which very often gets lost in some of these other social media. Like someone will
Yeah.
throw an emoji on a post in Instagram, but have you really connected? But like to your point with Ben, you can actually have a conversation with Ben in the app, deliver valuable information, vice versa. And it's that exchange. But to kind of answer your original kind of point with, Mark, my Clubhouse following is growing very, very quickly. It's growing my Instagram really quickly. I'd love to talk shop about Clubhouse because I think it's a huge opportunity. I think rule number one in Clubhouse is you need to get on stage and you need to speak. That's rule number one. If you're just sitting in rooms and just listening to Damon John or listening to Zuckerberg or something like that, you're not actually accomplishing anything. I mean, the flip side is, sure, you can join like a room and kind of learn and listen, but it's really that, for me, it's about getting on as many relevant stages as possible. And there's different strategies to do that, but it's these type of collaborations that give you that opportunity. And it's obscenely powerful because people come on, they ask a question, you're on stage already, maybe you're a moderator, maybe you're hosting your own room. So that also gives you that kind of that thought leadership, that authority type thing, because you've got the little green bean next to your name. So yeah, I think for me, rule number one, growing on Clubhouse, is getting on stage and speaking.
Yeah, I agree. Otherwise, it's just no different than a podcast. If you're just sitting there listening, you might as well go listen to a podcast. But if you're participating, asking questions that are relevant, you're having breakthroughs. But if you're a moderator, even better. Like you said, there's that positioning. You're the expert. You can chime in. And I've noticed that as well, because right before we got on the call, I was a moderator in a room that, someone just gave me the moderator status and I didn't get a chance to speak. I was like kind of listening. There was a lot of dialogue going on between other moderators. And I don't think my followers grew by any because I didn't have a chance to add value. But as soon as you speak and you add value, like I've noticed, boom, 10 followers right away. If someone liked the answer that I gave and I added value, they're going and clicking follow me. They're going to my Instagram. They're sending me a DM. But if I'm just sitting there in the audience, you're right, no one's going to know who you are. I never scroll down to whoever's at the bottom of a 300 person room to click on their profile and see what they do. I'm looking at who's speaking, who's moderating. Do I need to follow these people? And then I go over to their Instagram. Do they have credibility? Do they post a lot? Right. So in today's day and age, it is tough, but I think like a rising tide lifts all boats is a quote that I would attribute to this, because as your Clubhouse following rises, it's going to trickle into your LinkedIn, your Instagram, your Facebook. If you have funnels and things in place, right, you're going to have people on your email list, all that kind of stuff. So I think Clubhouse, man, that's been a huge focus for me lately. Like I've kind of cut down on other areas and I've increased my time on Clubhouse strategically though.
Yeah, me as well. And because again, you hit the nail on the head there with the tide rising, all the ships up. So as soon as you're done in a room in Clubhouse, you go to check out your Instagram, or you're doing it at the same time and taking answers and things like that, taking questions. Your Instagram is going to blow up. Like my Instagram is growing like 10% a week. It's pretty nuts right now. I'm curious to hear from you, Chris, and then I can give my experience here. What are you doing when those new followers follow you on Instagram? Are you just like giving a thumbs up and be like, this is cool, I got new followers? Or are you engaging with them directly? How are you handling that new followership?
That's a good question. I honestly have not been doing a great job of handling that. I'm kind of like cool. You know, I got 8 new followers, 10 new followers, or someone maybe DM'd me in response to something that I said that I have offered to people like, hey, can I get that? Or they DM me. My call to action is like DM me free for my free guide just to get some engagement and dialogue.
Mhm.
So sometimes I'll do a voice message, and this is with anyone who follows me. If they hear me on a podcast or in a Clubhouse room, they hit me up. I like to give a little personalized message if I have the time. Like, hey, thanks so much, Susan, for reaching out. I really appreciate that you took the time to message me. It takes me 20 seconds to send a voice message, but it means a lot more to them. But I have noticed in sub Clubhouse rooms that I go into, the moderators will connect with me on Instagram and then they'll have like a copy paste DM. Hey, thank you so much for just jumping in that Clubhouse room. Excited to stay in touch. You know, it's kind of like a starting
Yeah.
the conversation, which I do like, but you can kind of tell when it's copy and pasted and when it's actually personalized. So sometimes it rubs me the wrong way. I personally don't do that. How about you?
Well, the short answer is I do. And here's the reason
Like you
why.
connect with people on Instagram.
I will absolutely, because that's a really important, I mean, I hate to use the word funnel because I think it's been overused in some bad
Salesy,
ways.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a little salesy, but I mean, when you connect with someone on Clubhouse, that's the first connection. That's the first interaction you've probably had with that person. When they
right.
follow you on Instagram, they're what I call warm, right? They know who you are. They're interested in what you have to say. They want to know more. They're warm. If you're not taking the time to reach out to them in some way, shape, or form, they're going to become cold, right? It's
They're
like
going to
leaving that.
unfollow you or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't like to eat cold food. I don't know about you, Chris. Now,
I'm a machine, man. I eat everything, but I love that point. You're right. People like warm or hot food. I mean, cold food. Yeah. Cold
yeah.
pizza. I can't imagine it.
Yeah, exactly. You got to get to the people while they're warm. Now, that being said, when you're picking up, it's 11 o'clock at night. I just get out of a moderating room. I picked up 75 new followers on Instagram.
Yikes.
I don't have time to have custom conversations with every single person. So what I do is I have a person on my team that sends a message to them to give them a little bit more information about me. Thanks for following me here. Really glad to meet you. If you haven't already, definitely check out my podcast, that sort of thing. And then once we get the response back, which is, I don't know, 25% of the people will respond back. That's when I get involved. That's when I give that personal touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
And that
love
can be with a voice message, that can be with some text. In other cases, I haven't actually done this yet. This is another kind of pro tip for scaling your contact with people on DMs is you can pre-record a video message on your phone, right? You pre-record a video message and then either you or one of your team members can send that video message to that person just to kind of introduce themselves. And a lot of people won't even recognize, Chris, that it's been that it's been recorded a month earlier.
Yeah.
They might think you actually did that for them. So it's any way you can kind of create and scale that personability, I think is really important.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think only one thing that I heard, because I have not really implemented that much, the only downside that I heard with that strategy is sometimes if it's a person you're not connected with yet, if you send a video or picture, I know Instagram blurs it and asks them to, hey, would you like to see this message from, someone who you're not connected with yet? But I mean, if they do unblur it and they watch it, and because there's so much spam out there too, I can't imagine how many DMs you get where it's like a group text with a bunch of people and just a bunch of gibberish. And so I sometimes I don't even click into it. I'm just like edit, delete, check all and clean out the inbox. So I know what I need to focus on, but that's a great strategy.
And to your point, Chris, a lot of people aren't going to look at that video on Instagram because it's blurred out, right?
Yep.
But if they're a warm lead,
you message them, right?
Exactly.
Much
more likely to open it.
That's a great strategy, man. So I just wrote that down. So you send like a templated message to everyone. Like if you have 75 people, I understand you can't send 75 voicemails or you're going to be up till 2 a.m. right after that Clubhouse room. And so once they reply, maybe 25% get back to you, then you're sending them a personalized message and the video would go through because it's now a connection. Even Facebook does that where once you start messaging, it's like, okay, you can now message each other because you've exchanged a few messages and you allowed that person into your inbox. So that's an awesome strategy. I'm definitely going to implement that because you're right. When they're warm and they know you, that's the best time to take them, a step further to getting to know you, not to necessarily take them through the funnel or sell them on something, but just to really make sure you solidify that relationship and you thank them for their time, for going over to your profile, showing you support, asking for your free guide or listening to your podcast, whatever it may be.
Yeah. And these types of things that we're talking about, nobody's doing it, or at least very few people. So it's a really good way of standing out. People, when you send someone that custom audio message, like you're talking about, or a video or something, a lot of people are just blown away. They've never even seen anything like that. So it's really big. Going back to Clubhouse for a minute too, though, this is another strategy I think is really valuable for people because everyone, everyone understands that social media is rented land,
Right.
right? Facebook, Twitter, they could kill your algorithm at any time, or you could get banned, suspended. Who knows? It's rented land. Okay. And obviously, as entrepreneurs, business owners, we're trying to grow our influence. We don't like rented land. We want to make sure that we own that relationship. Okay. So a way that we do that is by building our email list, building our network on our email. That can be very difficult now because a lot of people don't want to be on email. So
Yeah.
I've developed, I think, what's, at least for me, become a very compelling offer. When I'm hosting these really fantastic Clubhouse rooms, generally go for a couple hours or so, a lot of people just were all, people kept asking me for like a summary of what happened. So I said, you know what, I'm going to put that into a weekly newsletter. And at the, around the end of, or maybe in the middle, we could talk about hosting and moderating Clubhouse rooms, but at some point or multiple points, I'll say, hey, listen, everyone, if you want the show notes, DM me on Instagram, send me your email address. I'll add you to my list. And then my team will add them to my email list. And then all of a sudden they're in the loop there. I own that relationship much more so than I would with Instagram. So it's finding that compelling offer on Clubhouse, some value that you can give someone on Clubhouse, getting them to either go straight to your website or to Instagram to DM you. It's really helping me to grow my email list quite tremendously. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's really powerful, man. And I love how you said, I want to touch on that point that you said your assistants do that. Like you're not spending hours and hours pulling emails and doing that yourself. You have that all automated so that you can spend more time going in more rooms, adding more value, because that's one thing that you really can't. I mean, I heard some impersonator guy, or I forget what he does voice impersonations, I guess. So unless you have someone like that who can do your voice, you can't really outsource that to your virtual assistants, right? They can't just be Mark in a different Clubhouse room because that's something you can't fake. And so it has to be you authentically, just like you and I here in front of video. I mean, as of the time of this recording in 2021, maybe CGI, right? But I look like a Grand Theft Auto character if it wasn't really me sitting here. And so our time is valuable. We've got other calls after this. We had calls before this. And so learning to scale ourselves and make the most out of our time, that's something that I keep coming back to, because anytime you have those little activities, even adding 5 emails a day, that is taking time away from your high producing dollar generating activities.
Right. Because you're opening you're opening this program, you're logging into this program. Oh, I forgot my password. So I got to log into anything
Little
that
minutes
takes
add up here and there, man.
Exactly. Tim Ferriss said this, I think, in the best way possible. And he's that what my goal is to make one decision now that prevents 1,000 decisions in the future.
Absolutely.
And once you start executing on that, your world changes instantly. It's so powerful. The challenge, though, with that is, and you kind of alluded to this earlier, Chris, as you start to scale that out, as you start to scale that personalization and all these touches, you lose some of that personal touch. And so this is one of the challenges, I think, when you're in your infancy stage of digital media. It's easy. You're getting a couple DMs a week or something. But as your influence grows and you grow more people and more people are interested in you, it becomes more difficult to give that personal touch. And again, this is one of the reasons I really like Clubhouse, because you can give more personal touches in Clubhouse, and it kind of trickles down to the other platforms like your YouTube, your live videos, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. I mentioned earlier too, I'm like in the process of moving. I didn't even post it on Facebook. Like I don't want a lot of friends or family to really know yet, because I know everyone's going to DM me and call me. Why are you moving? What's wrong with Texas? Right? All those different things. But kind of going to your point, one friend was like, hey man, when are you leaving? We should grab coffee before you go. And I'm like, dude, I've already gotten like 20 of those texts, and I love you. Like we're not best friends. We didn't grow up together or anything. Like I prefer a Zoom call or a Clubhouse call because it's just more scalable. Because I got to pack, like I got to leave next week. And if I do 5 coffee meetings between now and then and a lunch, like I won't have time to do the things that I need to do, including all these podcast interviews in Clubhouse rooms. And so I guess learning what your priorities are and what you need to say no to, when you have those clear boundaries, it's a lot easier to just let people down easy and just say no up front instead of committing to things that may not be the best use of your time or may not be of interest to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly being thoughtful with your time is key. If you're not being thoughtful with your time, you're wasting time, period.
Yeah,
even if you're
and
being
time
thoughtful
wasted, you never get that back, right? So,
right.
Man, those are some great tips in Clubhouse. I mean, from what I've been seeing, and I know we can talk about this as well, just for moderating and being pulled up on stage, it definitely helps if you make friends with people like Ben Levitt, for example. I'm sure if you start a room, like you'll ping him up, or he'll bring you up on the stage, make you a moderator, right? That relationship goes both ways. Has that kind of been the strategy of just connecting with other people who are successful on Clubhouse and actually taking it very seriously?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I mean, relationships are everything. And that's why we're doing this right now. This is why video podcasting, Clubhouse, making these connections is so important. because once you've developed know, like, and trust with someone, and vice versa, it starts to flow. I've been collaborating a lot with Hala Taha, who's just got a huge LinkedIn following. She's getting 100,000 downloads a month on her podcast.
Wow.
And because of the relationship that we've built, now we're co-hosting 2 rooms a week on Clubhouse. A couple of days ago, and yesterday actually, we were hosting a room with, I mean, some of the biggest influencers on the platform, and even Damon John jumped into the room for a while. So it's these connections that come and are built over time that are really valuable. And you know, I'll just give a quick takeaway to everyone. Just stop selling on Clubhouse. You know, stop selling.
It's not going to work. No.
I generally follow like an 80-20 rule. I spend 80% of my time delivering valuable information to people, and 20% of my time selling. I reduce that a lot on Clubhouse. It's more like 95.5%. It's all about, for me, it's about quick wins. Boom, 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 punchy, quick wins. Give people actionable things that they can take home to their business to move the needle on their business. That's what all about. And that has started to actually trickle over to my YouTube channel, which I'm really focused on now. Chris, I'm curious about you. YouTube, have you started diving in there? Is that something you've been looking at?
I actually just had a call with my virtual assistant yesterday, and I paid for her to do a little Udemy course on like SEO optimization, right? Because I mean, it doesn't make sense. I don't want to be an SEO expert. I am in real estate and I like to do this podcast for fun.
Yep.
And it also lead generates for me, but like me focusing on SEO and stuff myself, it's not something that I would do. So my assistant gave me the summary. This is what we need to do. Add these keywords, blah, 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 create playlists for all your different videos. And so I am taking YouTube more seriously. You know, I've been inspired from people like yourself and like Ben Levitt, for example, just how they've grown it, taking it more seriously. Because right now I'm just basically putting the Zoom videos up on YouTube, and it's been growing slowly. I think I'm about to pass like 400 subscribers, but it's not quite as close to my podcast downloads, which are about at 50,000 a month right now. So filling in the gaps, right? Like, okay, I have this cool podcast. Like, let me take this really seriously and actually get a fancy mic. And now let me focus on building YouTube, because people, like you mentioned, the likability factor, your voice is great, but if they don't know what you look like and how you act and like, oh, here's my cat running around the desk, right? That's when they really get to know you. Like, I see your background here, done is better than perfect on the whiteboard. I love that quote, right? So I can relate to you more. I'm like, okay, we're just 2 people talking here, versus a podcast may not be as close because, okay, you know their voice, but what do they look like? What do they wear? You know, what's their style? Are they in a suit or are they in a hoodie and a t-shirt, right?
And the other aspect is it's much easier to repurpose. Like,
oh yes,
have you ever
easier.
actually listened to a full audiogram before on Instagram?
No one ever really listens. They listen to the 10-second and they're like, okay, cool. Maybe I'll go check out the full podcast when I'm walking the dog, right?
Maybe,
Yeah.
but and when you get the video, what you're able to do is you're able to create these
Snippets.
punchy these punchy snippets, you know, that really attract people in, because we're human beings, generally speaking, we're very visually oriented. So that's a big deal. And it's much easier for you to give people different experience. And the real, you know, the other thing about YouTube is the searchability. It's very hard to be found in a podcast, right? Podcasts, it's very hard for someone just to go in, type in a particular topic or question and have you show up on that podcast. In YouTube, it's very easy. I don't want to say easy because there's a science to YouTube,
right?
But it's the second largest search engine in the world. Like, I did a poll recently on LinkedIn. I think we got, I don't know, 20,000, 30,000 responses to this poll. And by far, so the question was, where do you learn the most? And by far, YouTube was where people go to learn. You know, it's the new school. So I think having a YouTube strategy is really important, but it's a whole nother animal, because you need to know the SEO, you need to know the tags, you need to know titles, you need to know descriptions, you need to know thumbnails, you need to know the analytics. There's a lot to it. And again, that's one of this challenge, this problem that you just announced is kind of how my business has evolved. I never started out thinking that I'm going to build an agency, like a digital media agency, but it's, you know, there's so many people that they want to focus on their business. Yeah. You want to focus on getting more real estate clients. You want to sell more homes or buy more homes or invest. You want to focus on your business. You don't want to focus on learning, you know, A/B testing thumbnails and stuff like that. You know, you don't want to do that. It's a waste of your time. Yeah. So what me and my team,
it's important, but it's not the best use of my time for what I want to focus on. Right. So
that's exactly right.
Understanding that is extremely important. So that's what your team works on currently for your clients?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, so we bring on clients, we say, hey, where do you want to focus your effort? You know, where's your demographic live? And we're going to create experiences so that you stay top of mind. So when someone's ready to buy their home or needs an attorney or needs insurance, like you stay top of mind because you're showing up day in, day out, providing useful information. I can't tell you how many, this is especially true for these types of industries, attorneys, real estate agents, insurance agents. Everyone is like, I know so many people that are in this industry, but if you're staying top of mind in my feed, much more likely that I'm actually going to reach out to you when it's time. But and I love what you said there, Chris. It's important, but it's a waste of your time.
Right. And it goes back to clarity on what do you want to be the expert in? What are you interested in? If I loved video editing, sure, I would chop up my videos and stuff. I mean, I've taken footage at trips and stuff, and I've tried to make the cool travel videos, but then I'm like 2 hours into editing, I'm like, gosh, I should just outsource this because it's cool to see the final video of my trip, but I don't want to be there for 4 hours editing the last 7 days, in Bali or whatever. Right. So whatever you're interested in. And so for me, like podcasting, I want to be doing more of this. Real estate deals, I want to be doing more of those. Showing houses, I mean, I could delegate that, right? I don't necessarily want to open up 10 houses for you in the weekend. I'd rather have someone else do that and pay them while I'm doing these types of conversations. And then I'll show up for the picture at closing, right? It's like a selective with my time. And I know you're the same way. I can see clearly that we have our priorities outlined. And to be respectful of your time, I know we're kind of at the end of our time limit. Do you have a hard stop, or do you have like a couple minutes to add a couple more nuggets here?
Well, one thing I want to point out is, I've been talking about, and I love where this conversation has gone to naturally. It's to focusing on what you're great at and then outsourcing or finding someone or something to do the rest. But we both know that takes a lot, that takes money, but money they might not have. So the other half of what I do is really around this education, free Clubhouse rooms, free Facebook group, free YouTube, like all these free resources and free assets for people so that you can build on your own. And to your point, editing can be really tough. If you're taking 30 to 40 to an hour worth of video, it's really hard to like trim that down to something people are going to watch. But pro tip to everyone out there listening, vertical style short form video is absolutely huge. You need to be on it. You need to get on it. And it is not hard.
Just
it does
use
not.
Your phone.
That's exactly right. You use your phone, you pick up a $10 or $15 lavalier mic, you post it up on a little tripod or on a bookshelf, and then you talk to your audience for 30 seconds, 60 seconds. You clean it up a little bit with a free platform like KindMaster, or if you want to do something more comprehensive, you can do that. But that short form video all of a sudden can reach people on several different platforms. So that is something I'm absolutely huge on. We're starting to play with YouTube Shorts. We're playing with Instagram Reels. We're playing with TikTok. And I'm very, very excited about short form vertical style video. I'd encourage everyone to get on it and start playing with it. It's what you want to be doing in Q1, Q2 of 2021.
Yeah. And a lot of people let that stop them because they think you need a fancy camera, you need a podcast mic, you need all this stuff. Dude, you can do a $10, $15 lavalier mic in your phone. Like you said, most people have the latest phone or whatever, maybe 2 versions old, which is perfectly fine. And one thing is model people who are doing that, right? I see Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi, like they're using their phone, it's shaking. I can see their kitchen in the background. It's informal, it's personalized in a way where you feel like, oh, they're just like me, right? They know my problem. They can answer what it is that I'm looking for. And so it's super easy for anyone listening who thinks you need like the perfect quality stuff. You don't. I mean, you can just get away with doing 30-second videos, put the ads up, connect with people, and you'll grow your audience and following.
Yeah. And honestly, you don't even need an editing software. I mean, it makes it easier because you can cut out like the places where you feel awkward or you speak awkwardly. But listen, if you can deliver a clear point in 30 seconds, that's a video. Yeah. Post it. Just post it. Just post it. I think it's really easy to overthink it and to get in our own head, but you just post it. You don't know what's going to stick. You got to put it out there. And that's what I would challenge everybody to do. And if you really want to take it to the next level, you can of course work with an agency like I have at Mark Savant Media or whoever, but you need to be thinking about ways that you can show up to more eyeballs via what we're looking at right now. This digital media, it's an incredible asset. You need to be on it right now. You cannot afford to wait because it's going to get harder and harder to show up over time.
Yeah. And it's never too late to start. I mean, people are like, it's too late to start YouTube. It's too late to start podcasts. Just start, do your work, learn, grow, and you're going to start to see progress. If you keep waiting 2 years from now, it's going to be an even worse time to start, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. That's another great quote. Just get started. And so we've talked about a lot of great stuff here, and we dived into, or dove in, I guess is the right word, into Clubhouse quite deeply, I guess. Is that we dove in deep, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. But that I think is going to be the tide that lifts all ships. And so Clubhouse has become a huge focus for me. Thank you so much for your tips as well, Mark. I jotted down a couple of notes that I have not been implementing, but I will start implementing ASAP. Do you have any last takeaway you'd like to leave the audience before we end this one?
Yeah, I'm just thrilled to be here. I would just challenge everyone, just to your point, to keep trying new things. Clubhouse is super hot right now. In a year, we might be on to the next thing,
right?
You know, but you got to be trying new things. And that's really what I'm focused on is helping people to recognize this is my goal. This is where the trends are at right now. How can I dive in and how can I capture people's attention? Now is a really, I think it's a really special time in human history. I mean, there's a lot of challenges that we're dealing with now, but it's the opportunity is there. And I'm just thrilled to connect with you here, Chris. Again, my name is Mark Savant. You can find Mark Savant Media all over the web on your favorite app. You can find Mark Savant Media. I would certainly love to help out any of your audience in any way I can. And how about you, Chris? Where can all the Mark Savant Media and all the after hours entrepreneurs, where can we find Chris Bello?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So you can find Chris Bello for all your listeners or my listeners who aren't really following me. You should go follow me on other platforms. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I'm growing all those things. I'm on Clubhouse, of course. But if you go to chrisbello.com, just my name, first name, last name, .com, you can connect with me. It's got all the links. It's got my YouTube and all of that as well. And then find us on Clubhouse. I mean, you and I have been in a couple of rooms together. I'm sure we're going to be talking about podcasting, YouTubing. For anyone who's interested in talking about those topics, that's the best time to reach us. Instead of booking 10, 15-minute calls, we can all talk right there together and brainstorm and learn from each other. So chrisbello.com, and we're going to make sure we drop your links in my show notes as well, Mark. And thank you once again for your time.
Keep rocking, Chris. Before I let you go, I need to ask a rapid fire question I'd love to ask all my guests. Chris, if you had 10 seconds with yourself 10 years ago, what would you tell Chris?
Maybe reconsider getting that college degree. I don't know if I really find value in it, honestly. I went to Texas A&M. Okay, 10 seconds is up. But basically, I don't know if I really find value in it for being an entrepreneur. How about you, man? What would you say for that question, rapid fire? It's a great question.
I would say, it's honestly, no one's ever thrown it back at me like that. But what I would say is to try new things, get comfortable with discomfort, and practice self-awareness. Be self-aware, because I think I missed out on a lot of opportunities, or I kind of took my life in a direction that was maybe not perfect. I'm really happy with where I'm at now, but it's very easy to follow that dangling carrot rather than being self-aware. This is what I enjoy. I'm going to focus in on this. So that's what I would say is practice self-awareness and double down on what's working for you.
I love that, man. And honestly, if I went back to my college degree thing, like that would have tied into that answer as well.
Yeah.
Because I never took the time to think, what do I actually want to do with my life? It was always like, I guess I'll get this degree. I guess I'll go work in that oil and gas company. I was just kind of doing what most people around me were doing instead of thinking, what do I actually want to do? What makes me happy? So if I had to boil down my answer to that, I think I would mimic what you just said about self-awareness. You're not self-aware at 18, right? You're like trying to go to the next party and do a cake stand or whatever. But understanding where we've come from and like everything we've learned is part of the journey. But for everyone listening now, especially my younger listeners, practice self-awareness, get clear on what you want and start to, backward schedule. What are the things you need to do today to accomplish those goals?
Chris said it, and I agree with it. Great chat, Chris.
Thank you once again, Mark. Great to connect with you on here, and we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you so much for watching. I'm glad you enjoyed this episode. I've got several other episodes right here for you. Smash one of these videos to make sure that you don't miss out on the tips, tools, and tactics of industry experts. Let's take that side hustle full time. Smash one of these links.